Magic items are a staple of the fantasy genre. You have it all over the place, from swords that glow in the dark to rings that rules them all and then shadows binds them, and whatever this is. Seriously, a sword that shoots swords. That's just peak fantasy to me. I love this. It's so stupid. And they're also all over D&D and TTRPGs. In fact, they are so prevalent that even I have a magic item in this very bag, which I will come back to later. So, they're all over the place. But have you ever asked yourself, what are they? Obviously, they're objects that have been imbued with magic for various purposes. But as a game device, what purpose do they have? And how can you be sure that the items that you come up with serve that purpose? Magic items can generally be divided into two categories. The active items, which you need to activate in order to get the effect, and the passive items, which grant some kind of permanent passive boon to the wielder. I'll talk a bit about the passive items at the end, because they also serve a purpose, but for now, let's focus on the active items. Active items are all about choice. Whatever effect you choose to give them, they must always expand the options that a player has in a given situation. For example, a piece of armor that allows the wearer to cast the invisibility spell once per day increases the options a rogue has when they are approaching an encounter. Do they use it to gain an advantage in the opening moves of the battle? Or do they save it for an emergency if they get into a tight situation? Usually rogues can't cast spells, so this item expands their options and gives them more choices to make. Or another example is the dust of sneezing and choking. By throwing it into the air, the player might be able to incapacitate the nearby enemies, with the risk of incapacitating themselves as well. It's not really something any class has as a feature. Like, you can't, as a fighter, just look into your character sheet and see, oh yeah, there's the ability that allows me to incapacitate everyone around me. So this item provides more options for pretty much any character. And now, to show how this can work in homebrewed items, let me open my bag and present you with the Valence Sphere. If you have played the Rime of the Frost Maiden campaign, you might be familiar with the design of the item. It is based on the Sun Star, but the properties of the Valence Sphere is very different. Put simply, this item can be used as a spellcasting focus, and when used as such, the caster can choose to double any number in the spell description. The range of an Eldritch Blast could go from 120 feet to 240 feet. The damage of a fireball can go from 8d6 to 16d6, or to 8d12, or, if you're insane, you could double the casting time from one action to 2 actions. As you can probably tell, the opportunities this item provides are pretty numerous and pretty powerful, which is something I'll get back to later in the video. But my whole point is that this is an item that players need to decide whether they use or not. It's not something that just gives them a passive bonus every time they cast a spell. So when do they want to use it? And how do they want to use it? It might seem a little bit passive though. It's just doubling numbers in the spells that the players would probably already cast anyway, so isn't it just passive? Well, in a battle I saw a player use it to double the challenge rating of a fey creature that they could summon, which resulted in them actually using that spell. If they had been bound to the low rules as written challenge rating, they would probably not have used that spell, so it changed their behavior in that encounter. And that is the key to active magic items. When you make the item, think about how it changes the way the players play the game. Will it make them do things differently, or just augment what they would already be doing? If the latter is the case, you probably have a passive item, which I will talk about later in the video, I promise. But for now, let's talk about how powerful these magic items should be. How do you gauge the power of a magic item? And what is too powerful? The last question can be answered with when it's breaking the game. If you have an item that can solve the whole campaign on its own, it's game breaking. If it can trivialize combat, which is a core component to D&D, it's game breaking. If you're in a situation where you're fine with an item trivializing combat, maybe you should look for another game system, something that is not designed around combat. So basically ask yourself, can your campaign sustain the magic item that you are creating? Let's look at the Valence Sphere again. Initially, it might seem way too powerful, especially since I gave the players it at around level 6. Like a fireball that deals 16d6 damage with a potential max damage of 96. Insanity. Speaking with the dead and asking 10 questions? Exhausting. bark skin that prevents a character's AC from being less than 32? Unkillable. But if we just take a step back, is it really that bad? In the case with the Fireball and the Speak with Dead spells, it's basically just like casting the spell twice. Sure, the bark skin makes the character pretty much impossible to hit with attack rolls, but effects that force saving throws exist for that very reason. Is the player going to be powerful wielding the Valence Sphere? Sure. But are they going to be overpowered? I don't think so. The player with the 32 armor class is probably going to have a lot of fun though. My point is that you shouldn't be afraid to give your players powerful magical items. I mean, even the new Dungeon Master's Guide advises that players between level 1 and 4 should get at least one rare item. You create the world and everything in it, so you can make challenges that take this powerful item into account. For example, if you're afraid that your players are just going to save the Valence Sphere and then lob this massive fireball into your boss at the end of the dungeon, well, just make sure that the boss has 2 phases. The players will feel really great about having easily defeated the first phase, and then they can have a proper fight in the second phase. Let the players have that power, let them have fun with it, and then you can balance everything behind the scenes, as it always is. Or if the players get their hands on a Flame Tongue Greatsword at level 2, just make sure that they face some really beefy opponents. Bonus points if these opponents are really dangerous and frightening, but they are vulnerable to fire damage. But wait, is the Flame Tongue weapon just a passive damage bonus? Isn't it just a passive magic item? Yes, you're right, so let's talk about them. This is the Larksong Blade. It was recovered from the family tomb that was overrun by bandits, and it is now being carried by the rightful heir on her adventures. It's also a +1 longsword, which isn't much. It's about a 5% increased chance of hitting your opponents and, quite frankly, an almost negligible damage bonus. So what's the point of this item if its magic is so insignificant? Well, apart from fitting into the general character power progression, the importance of this item comes from the fact that it is magical. If the party has risked the dangers of fighting the criminal gang and all the traps down in the crypt to recover this blade, it would be pretty anticlimactic if it was just another longsword. Sure, it has a cool name and all, but it might just end up in a bag, forgotten as another curio in the character's inventory. But if you make it magical, even just with a passive +1 bonus, you make it special. Like, maybe it isn't much better than any other longsword, but this one is magical. And that's the point of passive magic items. It makes otherwise mundane objects seem special. Imagine you have a crystal that sheds bright light in a 20 feet radius and dim light in another 20 feet. It's basically just a torch. It does the same, and while torches are technically finite, they are very cheap and they last for a long time, so the players are probably never going to run out of them. But the crystal is magical. It's a cool gem that glows when you say a secret word. It's just a torch. But it's so much more. And that is the purpose of passive magic items. Not their abilities, but their importance. So to summarize all of this, according to my personal philosophy when it comes to making magic items, a magic item should change the way a player plays the game by offering new options, and be powerful enough to be enjoyable for the player to use. Don't be afraid to give powerful items to your players even at low levels. In my experience, the players seldom actually manage to break anything, even the most self-proclaimed devious groups I've had. Give the level 1 halfling a ring that turns them invisible and see them have fun with that. And if you want to imbue an item with some importance, give it some passive magical effect. Maybe the staff of the High Cleric that the party's been tasked with protecting grants the wielder a +2 bonus to intelligence religion checks. Or these strange boots that the party was sent by a mysterious benefactor allows them to run at double speed or something like that. And that is it for today. I hope that you found something inspirational in some of all of this. And like most of my videos, this wasn't really a tutorial on how to create magic items. I like to just dive into the truth behind some various aspects of the game, in this case, magic items. If you understand why magic items are in the game, I think it'll make it easier to actually create meaningful magic items. If you want to watch more videos like this, perhaps the long postponed video about foreshadowing, which, when you think about it, has in a way been foreshadowed for quite a while. So maybe it's meant to be. The best way to do that is by subscribing to the channel. You can also support the channel by liking this video and writing a little comment down below. I actually genuinely like to hear about your little anecdotes from your own games, so if you have any stories about some magic items you created or had some clever ideas about it, please do share. I love it. You can also drop by my DM's Guild page and check out some of the dungeons that are published there. I'm currently working on this Haunted Keep dungeon, which will hopefully be ready for Halloween, so maybe look out for that. And until then, take care of yourself, and I will see you. Goodbye!